And welcome back to the Weekend Review. I'm Martin False. We now go to an interview that I had on Wednesday on Bayou Time with Dr. Joni Clayville. And, of course, she has become an expert on bath salts and synthetic marijuana. As a physician at Terrebonne General Medical Center in the emergency department, she sees a lot of this, and she was on the desk speaking out about the effects of the synthetic drugs. Let's take a listen to some of that conversation. Let's start the conversation off just briefly. I want to take them from point A to point Z on this thing. Okay. So what is it? What is synthetic drugs? What is it comprised of? What is it all about?
Okay. Well, synthetic marijuana, it's a new trend that's cropping up across the U.S. Lawmakers, medical professionals, it basically has the community in an uproar. Synthetic marijuana is a psychoactive chemical. When I say psychoactive, what does that mean? It means that it gets in the bloodstream and it crosses the blood-brain barrier. So basically it gets in the bloodstream and it gets into the brain and basically it affects the brain function. So it's a chemical product, and when consumed, it mimics marijuana. And note I say mimics marijuana. Right. It's best known by the most popular brands that we've seen, K2 and Spice. And these names have become trademarks to refer to synthetic marijuana. However, these are just brands. There are hundreds of different brands. Mm-hmm. K2 and Spice are just two brands, but there are hundreds of different brands of the synthetic marijuana. Initially, it was thought of as a legal and easy way to find a potent imitation of the real thing meaning marijuana. It's been becoming increasingly prevalent amongst our young adults, adolescents, and, the thing is the synthetic blend lacks a lot of long-term research. It lacks a lot of research. And when I say synthetic, I mean that it's artificial, it's created in a lab. Mm-hmm. It's not anything that's grown. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of our young people and people that use this synthetic marijuana, it's basically not anything that's, they think, hey, it's a legal herb. And
it's not organic.
It's not organic. Basically what they do, they take vegetable matter. They take vegetable matter, whatever it is, grass, they can take a lot of vegetable matter, and then they basically they spray chemicals on it, and then they package it and give it to you. So this is what our young people are exposing themselves to without really knowing what they're actually using. It's the synthetic substitute comes in so many names. You have the K2 Spice. I've seen Kush and Ultra Chronic, Voodoo Spice, so many different names, right. Hundreds of different brands out there. And they're sold under the disguise of incense or herbal smoke aromas. And they have a warning on the package that says it's not for human consumption.
That ought to tell you something like that. Yeah, but people don't absorb that, I guess. Let me ask you, as an emergency room physician, and the whole reason I got you on because you were here for a Terrebonne General Medical Center segment one night, mm-hmm. talking about something totally different, yeah. And you alluded to something mm-hmm. during the break, and I asked you a follow-up question.
Sure.
At the end of the show about synthetic marijuana. You said you were seeing more of this in Houma, mm-hmm. in cases where young adults were coming in. Mm-hmm. About when did you start seeing it?
I started seeing it more prevalent maybe around, I'd say, November, December. I've started to see it a whole lot. Mm-hmm. And surprisingly, that was after it was legally banned in Louisiana. There was a House bill that was House Bill 173 that Governor Bobby Jindal basically put into motion that banned certain chemicals or certain compounds that are found in this synthetic marijuana. They were banned around August 15th, 2010, but we continued. I started to see it more and more even after the ban. Mm-hmm. And basically what I was seeing was people coming in and they say, well, I'm using they admit to using synthetic marijuana, and they say, well, I've been using the same brand for a year or so, and I've never had this effect. And I'm wanting to know what's wrong with me, what's going on, why am I feeling this way? Mm-hmm. So we've definitely seen a whole lot. It's becoming more prevalent with our young people.
All right. Also, we're going to jump to Thursday now on Bayou Time, and the minority judgeship once again an issue as we took phone calls and talked about it here on Bayou Time, and certainly we'll listen into some of the comments on Thursday. Joining me live on the phone right now is State Representative Joe Harrison. Joe, thank you for joining us on Bayou Time tonight.
Yes, Martin. I appreciate it.
Let's set the record straight, because certainly it was told to me, and I think in the follow-up you heard me tell Mr. Boykin that until Representative Harrison tells me personally that he is supporting the bill which you are trying to endorse, I can't go on the air with it. And quite obviously, you did not support it. So what happened? Where did his information go wrong with you?
Well, I was told that, and Gordy Dove and myself said that we wanted the community involved in this from the beginning, and that we would do this according to the law. I requested a review by the Judicial Council to see whether it merited another court system, which they found that it didn't. And Gordy pretty much informed him that we would like to get the support of all of the political entities and also the people within the community. After the committee meeting was held, I was in two other committees at the time. I was told that they had all of that. Between that time and the time that this bill came to the floor, I found out that that was not true, that a number of people who had testified at the committee were giving false information to the committee, and it was only the information that the committee could base it on felt that Terrebonne Parish was wholeheartedly behind the measure. So that's when I questioned it. I said, I do not feel that this is the process that we agreed to, and it was not going to go forward until I spoke to the people involved.
Okay. Let me ask you this, Joe, were the people that were testifying, was it citizens representing, I guess, the makeup of the community that were, I think in one case, someone in the committee said that Judge Gadry was also endorsing the minority district, which in fact, he wrote a letter, and we got a copy here in HTV, that he was against it. Is that one of the references you're talking about?
Absolutely. I mean, this was completely false testimony to the House of Representatives committee that had to make the call whether this bill should move forward. And unfortunately, it was Mr. Fazio that made that statement, and it was totally false.
Okay. What Fazio? Do you know, so we could get the record straight?
I think he calls himself Colonel Fazio.
Colonel Russ Fazio?
Yes. I
okay,
think so.
And I'll check in all fairness to Mr. Fazio. But because there's so much made, I'm just trying to get the record straight here. I've been hearing so many comments, even from State Representative Dove, that there were a lot of accusations and a lot of pressure on him that if he didn't do certain things, that they were coming after him, in so many words. Did you feel that same pressure?
Yes, it was implied. I mean, the boycotts and the other things that were said were totally off base. I think that we're supposed to live in a society when we disagree that we're not told that we're going to be boycotted against because we have a difference of opinion, and one that is based on whether the law was correct or not. In this case, it wasn't, and they weren't willing to accept that.
We have NAACP President Jerome Boykin on the phone, and obviously he's a big player in all of this because he was a proponent of the minority judicial district. Jerome, are you there?
I'm here, Martin.
All right. Obviously, you've heard State Representative Joe Harrison. What's your take? What's your side? Tell us tonight on Bayou Time.
Well, first of all, I want to say State Representative Joe Harrison is lying at this point. He's doing what he's been doing all the while, lying to the African-American community in reference to the minority judgeship. Martin, the guy that started the deal about the minority judgeship is Joe Harrison. He's the guy that sent the letter to the Supreme Court to ask them to come down to Terrebonne to see if we have the caseload so we can create a minority judgeship. Joe Harrison is on record supporting a minority judgeship. Also, State Representative Gordon Dove is doing the same. Matter of fact, I just released a tape with those guys at NAACP Martin Luther King Day when they got up in front of over 300 African Americans and said, clearly, a minority judgeship is needed for Terrebonne Parish. It's overdue. And if you want a copy of that tape, I'll be more than happy to release that tape to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, Joe Harrison was clearly for the minority judgeship until Gordon Dove decided that he didn't want to support the minority judgeship. He talked to Harrison. Harrison was the guy that was supposed to carry the ball for the NAACP for this minority judgeship. But what did he do? He reneged on it because of pressure he got from the local judges, the pressure that he got from Gordon Dove. That's the truth, Martin.
Okay. Now let me ask you this. He says, and State Representative Dove says, that when it came out of the first committee, now Representative Harrison just said a little while ago that I think he was okay with it up to that point. I think State Representative Dove would have been okay. But he said some things happened in that committee that were misrepresented that changed both of their mind about the way the process went. What are they talk? Were you in that meeting?
Yes, I was in that meeting.
Right, what happened in that meeting?
Martin, I want to say to you, we went to the committee meeting. If Joe reneged on carrying the ball for the minority judgeship, he was looking for an excuse to get out of it. Clear and plain. He was looking for an excuse to get out of filing a bill for the minority judgeship. He was looking for any reason that he can possibly find to get out of it. He was supposed to be there. He said he was going to testify. Now, you ask him, is that true? He was going to testify along with Damian Bardon in favor of the minority judgeship. But then he walks into the committee meeting 3 or 4 times that I'm in other committees, I'm trying to do this and I'm trying to do that, like someone is stupid. Once he did that, I knew that we had problems with Joe Harrison and also with Gordon Dove.
All right, but wait, you said you knew when he walked out you had problems with it, but on the Saturday Bayou time right before the vote, you said he was with you. So when did it happen?
I talked to Joe Harrison on many occasions. I also talked to him that Sunday before the vote. It was approximately about 8 o'clock in the morning. I'll show you my phone record. And he then committed again that he was going to support the minority judgeship. Martin, these guys don't have a word. They say one thing and do something else. That's the reason why I'm glad I have a copy of this tape to prove to the public that these guys are saying one thing to the African American community and saying something else to the white community. But Martin, I also want to say it's no need to rejoice in reference to the House voting down the minority judgeship, because don't think for 1 minute that this is over with. Yeah. I can clearly tell you it's not over with. It's over with on a local level now. That's true. But the reason why the NAACP, we did what we did, we wanted the Supreme Court to come down to see if the caseload was high enough so we can get an additional judge, and that judge be a minority. That was one avenue. The second avenue, when that failed, to see if we can get the legislation to write a law and to make it a minority judgeship for Terrebonne. That failed. So we go into our third option. We knew in the beginning what we had to do. Now, we feel more comfortable once we file suit than dealing with local judges who can send letters up to Baton Rouge in reference to opposing minority judgeship. So clearly, we had to go through the different options that we went through in order to get our national offices to get involved. And also, it's not all that bad, because during this process that we did, we was able to find out who is our friend and who is not. So we was able to see people who raised his head up against this minority judgeship. Mm-hmm. So at one point, we didn't know who they were.
Let me ask you.
Now we know more now than we ever knew before.
Let me ask you this: you hinted to a suit against the judges. Is that next?
I didn't say a suit against the judges. What I'm saying is the NAACP and national office is taking a look at this deal, and we plan to file a federal suit. in the future. And that's the reason why I was saying it's no time for you all to rejoice like it's over with, because I can assure you this fight is not over with in Terrebonne Parish, because Terrebonne Parish need a minority judgeship. It will happen. We're going to fight until it happens, and I promise you we won't give up this fight.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're still on Thursday, moving through the week. It's going to include the SCIA banquet. What a banquet it was. All next on Bayou Time.